when we look at God and the devil, or what you know as the devil, we think in terms of outside and being afraid on what is on the outside of us internally, where all the magic happens, the internal life source happens in terms of receiving thought and thought process. Well, first there's movement or intuition, uh, igniting the thought. You see, the first thought is the spiritual daughter, the emotional truth of self. Forethought is the intellectual search inside wisdom, emotional wisdom of the truth. Forethought is the internal search engine that searches emotional truth inside our wisdom, becoming one with our wisdom, finding then the light and logic that concludes the knowledge we're seeking of the emotional truth of self, to know self better, because we have this thing for it. We need to do that. Instinct. We can't help but do that because we're born knowledgeless with nothing. So we're not hungry for knowledge, but hungry for knowledge. So, and it all begins with knowledge of self, and that makes sense to you. But we've been turned away from that. We're starting with falsifying the realities, and the reality is that God, the life source, giving us life of uniqueness, and what you call the devil, is really a spiritual pedophile after spiritual children born in the immaculate conception between self and life source. That's what Jesus was trying to explain to us way back then in those other bodies, because you and I are still alive on this earth because we have not yet gotten it. We have not yet joined back our intellect with our wisdom of emotional truth of self, because we have been removed. Actually, we've been intercepted and removed from it, and evil put it in its place. That sounds like a savior and truth, but it's all one big scam and lies. So you get rejected as a child, not knowing anything how to deal with it. All you do is feel pain and then think to yourself. But the thing is, it's not your thought. It's the spiritual pedophile you call the devil. He searches for the emotional truth, the spiritual daughter, to defile her. Do you see? Defile the heart of the emotional truth, removing only a thin sliver of it and tossing the rest out like it's yesterday's trash. So it focuses on the rejection only, that emotional truth, and disregards the rest, takes it out of the picture. So the child is now us when we're children and facing the rejection model being parented. We now are experiencing only the pain of rejection, when humiliation and embarrassment and ridicule then come in to speak to the heart of that thin sliver being currently exploited by Naas, the spiritual pedophile we used to call the devil, but now he's the spiritual pedophile. Okay, so that's an influence internally, and so where we're rejected. Oh fuck! Another guy just OD'd. They're trying to revive him on the replacement for heroin. When it used to be heroin overdoses, now it's pharmaceutical overdoses, and it's infecting even the judge's child now. So even the cop's child, even the mayor's child, even the secretary's child who works for the government or works for the same army of evil that produced everything you see in King of Thrones. That kind of evil, and they think it's good. They think it's nothing. They think it's the way to go. They just kill the guy or torture him or burn them alive. Sacrifice the child. That's what it is. It's sacrificial child. Those who worship Edom, not Sophia, the mother of wisdom, but Edom. Uh, Edom is the dark feminine element of Naas. When he boots Sophia out of our hearts, the wisdom of the emotional truth, and replaces it with Edom's dark emotional truth, not only takes that thin sliver, but turns everything around, twists and turns, and injects an energy into your heart that's like a venom that after being bitten by a fucking snake. that stays with you for the rest of your fucking life. What a powerful, powerful force evil truly is. Because when turned, what do we do? What do children do? We search for, we go self-protective. So Naas's influence comes in to suggest the lie. Just lie. Don't say you're feeling anything. This way you won't get rejected, and this way you won't be in pain. So we do that. We listen to that influence, and it works. We don't feel pain, and we were saved in that moment. The Savior then, to the child, innocence, knowledgeless innocence, then thinks that that influence in negative emotional energy and twisting and turning its truth is the Savior from its pain. You see, that's what happens to each of us, and that's how we all get lost, and that's how we all start interpreting the justification of denial and only removing thin slivers of the truth from the full body of knowledge. Like the Catholic situation, where yes, you love God, you were programmed to believe they represent God. You can't get in there unless through them, but they're all pedophiles. And how many of them have been arrested now? 10, 20,000? Or even 4 or 5,000, right? Like, it's obviously in their training to sacrifice children, which is the old original religion. It came to destroy people. Edom, it's written, said that she needed to produce for us every possible torture. Every fucking possible torture that exists. Jeez. Emotionally. And it works. So we get turned. Some of us become evil and duplicate what happens to us internally by removing other people's truth and exploiting just a thin sliver to consume them in a moment of feeling the need of retribution instead of discussion, to hurt the other person back. Like, that's consuming them, especially when you speak words that diminish their self-worth. That self-worth element is a deadly thing for the child. It's spiritually deadly. See, emotionally deadly. Anything that's emotional, which is physical and we can feel it, but it comes from the spirit of life in the invisible, non-physical form it comes in. God came into our bodies to offer himself, his life source, to share with us in hopes that we might get it. Because he saw us, how we were created, knew it was his fault from his mistake that he made, saw that we were suffering terribly and he needed to clean that mess up. So he could have snapped his magical fingers and made the whole thing go away, or he could provide life for the next 5 life cycles of human beings in an educational intent for us to slowly but surely turn ourselves back into the light beings that we're born perfectly in, because that's what we are. We are light beings in physical form, born in perfection of alignment with our life source, who is God, the Father of truth, for us. His grandfather suggested that he do that to learn how to become a father to a child of duality. And while doing so, he provides our emotional truth, the wisdom to understand its depth, the intellect to find that information, and the light and logic that concludes the knowledge sought. And so we do know ourselves, and we go, hey, I know that about myself now. And complete self with what's called the Father's Pleroma's energy level. I'm sorry, the Pleroma's energy, the Pleroma's fullness element, and that meets the emotional need by itself. By itself, nothing else meets emotional need. Who would have thought that was the way that was? Because I had no idea. I thought it was first another person. Second, I thought it was sex. because of my abuse issues, that was love. But then I thought love was acknowledgement, and it wasn't. That comes from neglect. So when I felt acknowledged in my empty death, my emptied spiritual death I lived in because of my rejection model of being parented, my form of it. Everybody has their own form. I forgot what I was going to say. No, I forgot what I was going to say. Anyway, it doesn't matter. The internal spiritual influence that produces emotional light, joy, and fullness when we discover something new about ourselves versus the emotional darkness. It's emotional death and the lie that says this is the truth, this thin sliver of the truth is the truth. It's the full body of knowledge, which it isn't. That's a trick that gets all children. Like, what child knows that there's more to it than just that thin sliver? Oh, it makes me angry. The fuck? Okay. Oh, yeah. Well, yeah. So, realign thy holy fucking self. Realign yourself. Because it's our last chance to get it, people. Well, I mean, I'm good. I think I did it. I feel peace now. I don't feel conflict internally anymore. I look at the emotional truth of myself as a singularity now. I remember how it was before and know your struggle because of that memory. So I went to fucking work. We all did. We all went to work. They're out teaching. I wanted to put a program together based off of the life skills training, coaches training I took in their lesson plans, including in that training some of those life skills, because the two bodies of knowledge intermix with each other perfectly. It's like they're made for each other. The Saskatchewan New Start Life Skills Program started in the 60s by hippies in love with life. Now that's all gone. There is no more fucking in love with life. There's no more God inside people. There's no more empathy between us anymore. That's all gone. I remember it because I lived in it. I remember craving it. I remember hungering for it. I remember feeling the saddest moments of knowing I'll never fucking see it here. And I didn't know I would find the fullness and how that made me feel. The thing is, it's just the old negative emotional energy just stops and is gone. That's it. And then you're left with feeling nothing until your first few experiences, and then you feel those things, and then you notice that the old negative emotional energy is not trying to take it over, not trying to hijack the thought to turn it into that venomous form of fear, anxiousness, anxiety. I think they're the same thing. I don't know. And anger, right? The angry person's wisdom is part of, there's a whole series of the triggering influences that get ignited in a person that possesses the person in the moment. Like we see these possession movies on TV and these zombie movies on TV, but the zombie is really emotional death, and we walk around consuming other humans. So we consume them when we need to fight back with retribution. Oh, I hurt him back and better, so I'm the winner. That's consuming the other person, because you do so with words of description that fucks with their self-worth. Not knowing what Naas did to you, that he's a spiritual pedophile. Not knowing that. You think you're being safe. And that's what gets you off the hook, because you don't know, right? God doesn't punish people who don't know what the fuck is up. And he doesn't punish people. So, some people, if it's needed, I guess he'll do what's needed, but like me, I can't get off the fucking weed. Like, I beat cocaine and heroin. now pills because never mind, WCB shit. Holy fuck, man. The fucking guy knew I had addiction problems and started fucking with my medication needs in hopes that I would OD and die so he can close the file that way. You must have seen that before. Maybe that's where he got the idea. I don't know. Sounds like paranoia, doesn't it? It's not. I listen to my truth in silence, in silent voice, in silent thought with the life source. Both the mother and father, brother and sister. Mother and father, the masculine and feminine elements of the omnipresent God. Brother and sister, intellectual wisdom, is the masculine and feminine elements of his son. And he is sharing those with us because he is in the seed. He is the seed of life. Okay? Like, that's important information for you to absorb and keep. And if you don't want to keep it, too bad. You can't help but keep it. You know, if your will is to do good, and even if you never accomplish that, and always turn out to be dark and evil, it doesn't matter. Your intent making saves your ass. Okay? It's all about what's real and not what can be exploited. Trust me, I know what I'm talking about.